Now, Matt was nice enough to read Larry David's blurb, and I've known Larry for 30 years. He's a good friend. Here's the deal with Larry David. You know how when, you may be out at dinner or you may be any place and something weird happens and somebody will say, this is like something that would happen on an episode of Seinfeld, and everybody laughs, right? The thing is, when you're with Larry David, you never know when a scene from Curb Your Enthusiasm is going to break out. You never know. A couple of years ago, he and I are out at dinner. We're near the end of the meal. I say to him, how about some dessert? And he says, no dessert for me. Ted Danson and I have a bet. No dessert for a year. I'm thinking, wow, it's Larry David. It's Ted Danson. They're both billionaires. The bet is no dessert for a year. It's got to be like $50,000, $100,000. It's probably like $1 million. That's the bet. I say to him, how much is the bet? He says, $200. I said, have a piece of friggin' cake. Matt did a much better job of explaining what my book is about, Everything Hurts, than I did. But I'll try. This is a book about a guy trying to get rid of a psychosomatic limp. Something we've all experienced, I'm sure. And the guy's name is Phil Camp. He's laid off as a sports writer, and to settle his divorce with his wife, he writes a book, and it's meant to be a parody of a self-help book, and it's called Where Can I Stow My Baggage? And he's so embarrassed about this sort of goof of a book that he writes it under an assumed name, Marty Fleck. Well, this is a parody. The world takes this book seriously, and Marty Fleck becomes this international self-help guru. And Phil Camp continues to hide behind Marty Fleck. He won't make any public appearances. He can't believe that this has happened. The only thing he does is not unlike Erma. He has a syndicated magazine column called Baggage Handling, which he does a couple of times a week, which he does for about 7 or 8 years. And he continues, Phil, to hide behind Marty Fleck, which comes in handy because he develops this inexplicable leg pain, which causes him to limp. It causes him to be isolated in his apartment, and the symptomatology makes no sense. His x-rays and MRIs are all clear. Nobody can explain it. He goes to doctor after doctor. Finally, desperate, he goes to a doctor who specializes in psychosomatic pain. He believes that pain is generated because of repressed unconscious rage. And as the rage tries to move to the consciousness, the brain desperately wants to hold it off. So the brain gives you a little distraction, pain, intense pain. So that's the theory. So he dives into this, and the doctor's theory is that you have to explore your past for some sources of where perhaps this unconscious rage is. And as Phil looks back, he thinks that there might be a couple of possibilities for this, like the fact that his ex-wife called in a bomb scare to his second wedding. Maybe that. The fact that the older brother, who he grew up with, who grew up Jewish, then became a Christian right-wing radio talk show host. There might be that. Not saying it is, but it's that. And this book is about his journey. And my favorite author is Philip Roth. In an interview 25 years ago with the London Times, he described his novel, The Anatomy Lesson, which was about a guy in pain. He described it thusly. He said, this is a book about physical pain and the havoc it wreaks on one human's credentials. And my book is also about physical pain, but the source of the physical pain is unknown, and the havoc it wreaks, ideally, brings out the guy's humanity, and rather than destroys his credentials. And that's, believe me, I am not trying to compare myself to Philip Roth. I mean, I'm embarrassed that I'm a writer, but he should be called something else. This is how much I love this. There's a friend of mine, Ron Zimmerman, who's a comic, who used to do a bit about Robert De Niro shooting and killing Anson Williams at a Hollywood party when Anson Williams said to him, "Oh, you're an actor just like me." So that's how I feel about me and Philip Roth. I mean, it's not fair. Roth, he also said in that interview when he was talking about the anatomy lesson, he said, when I was writing this book, I said to myself, I want someone who has known chronic pain to be able to read this book and say, that's it. That's what it's like. And and this book was born out of real experience. I dragged a foot. I had a limp for almost 4 years. And it moved around. It never stayed in the same place. There was, again, the symptomatology made no sense. My x-rays and my MRIs were clean, and I tried everything. And eventually I went to a doctor who specialized in psychosomatic pain. And same principle, explore your past. And I thought, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to write a book about a guy trying to get rid of a psychosomatic limp. And therefore, I'll try and art myself out of pain. So 2 years later, the book is done. Son of a bitch, the guy in the book is fine. I'm still, you know, I'm Ratso Rizzo still. I'm walking. So now, 10 days after I sell the book, I go to yet another doctor, show him the x-ray. Takes one look at it, he says, you need a hip replacement. I'm not telling, I love that gasp, that was great. He says, I'm not telling you you should get one. I'm telling you you have to get one. This is a no-brainer, and you'll be out of pain. And in June of 2008, or July of 2008, I had my hip replaced, and I am out of pain, and I walk among you now like a guy who walks among you. And when I tell people this story to a man, they say to me, but aren't you furious that you spent 4 years, you know, limping around in terrible pain? And I say the same thing, and I believe this. If I hadn't done that, I wouldn't have gotten this book out of it. And I mean, I guess it's the literal definition of suffering for your art. I hope that this is the last time we go through this. But, and of course, then if I hadn't gotten my hip replaced, I wouldn't have this next story. I come the second day home from the hospital, I get a call from the hospital for special surgery. And it's a woman that works there. And I'm going to do the same voice as the woman from George Magazine, because that's the only woman's voice that I do, and I'm sorry. So she calls me and she says, hello, this is Heather from the hospital for special surgery. We're just wondering if you enjoyed your stay with us. You know, like it's a Marriott. You know, it's yes, I intend to schedule all my future major surgery with you people. And we were just wondering if you had any complaints or suggestions. And I said, you know, Heather, as a matter of fact, I do. You know the guy that shaves you for surgery? Well, he only shaves the area that's being operated on. And I think, and this is really primarily for the guys, I think that he should shave anywhere there's going to be tape. Because, if I may, the worst pain that I went through during my hip replacement surgery was when they pulled the tape off from the catheter. So in conclusion, wherever there's tape, shave. Okay. Wait. Long pause. Wow, that's really good. Let me get a pen. If I have two things. I'll wait. My books have two themes. People say, is there a theme in your novels? Yeah. The first theme is, if you ever forget you're a Jew, a Gentile will remind you. That's the first theme. The second theme, it basically, and I didn't mean it to be this way, but it's basically, all my books deal about people raging against the dying of the light. I just don't, I never realized that I was this obsessed with aging, but we're all kind of doing it. And I'll just tell you one story. A couple of years ago in New York in December, we had in the middle of December, we had 2 days. The first day was a typical middle of December day in New York, 20 degrees, -1 wind chill, snow, terrible. And then the next day, the very next day, it was like May. But everybody knew it was coming. So the night of the first day, I get on the elevator in my building. And I go down a few floors and the door's open and a young married couple gets in the elevator. And she is, got the scarves and the hat and 3 gloves and and she's all bundled up. So I try to make conversation. And I say to her, it's going to be 68 tomorrow. And she looked at me and said, happy birthday. Jesus. That's one of those times where you just got to do this. My wife is a wonderful comedian, Adrienne Tolsch. She does a great line in her act. She said she knew she was getting old when she had to do this to roll a joint. Great, now I can tell her she got the biggest laugh tonight. Great.